Hey, I'm Dan.
And I'm Jacob, and today we're tackling a very important question, which is, are all religions true?
It's a tough question. I think a lot of us come from a Christian background, and we may not know that many people from other religions. Jacob, do you think you're well equipped to answer the question, are all religions true?
I know I believe in Jesus, but it might help to hear how to explain that to someone else.
Yeah, let's check out this week's God story. I think we'll find the answers we're looking for.
Hi, my name is Aaron. It is great to see everybody. Now, a couple years ago, I was in Israel on a study tour. We were kind of looking at where Jesus grew up, did his ministry, super awesome stuff. So we had a bus driver who was a Muslim, and 5 times every day, he would have to take time and go pray by himself, only for a couple minutes. But while I don't really personally respond to having a structured, you have to pray at this certain time, what I really loved about it was he actually took the time to focus on his faith and really get centered in that. So today's God story, we are going to be focusing on Paul. Now, Paul was in an area where many people worship different religions and many different gods. There were statues everywhere. Now, before we dive into all that story, let me tell you today's big idea. Now, it's a question you might have heard before. Are all religions true? To give you a short answer, no religions are true. Now, wait, hold with me for a second. Before you go on telling your parents you don't think any religion is true, let me explain what we mean by religion. So some people call us Christians. They would say that is our religion. But religion is often just a set of rules and a set of guidelines that is very man-made. Might be pointing to godly things or focusing on God, but it's often man-made. When we think of Christianity, we think of it as a relationship with Jesus. He came to get rid of religion and say, hey, I just want to be in a relationship with you. So Christianity isn't about following all these set rules that we've set out for ourselves. No. It's about following Jesus and his life and his example and his teaching. But back to the big question, are all religions true? Now, in and of itself, often religions say opposite things, so they can't all be true. But if they can't be all true, how are they all claiming to be true? And what's the difference? Well, the difference for us is Jesus. There's nobody in history like Jesus. Well, let's take a look at what Paul does. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply troubled by all the idols he saw everywhere in the city. He went to the synagogue to reason with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles, and he spoke daily in the public square to all who happened to be there. Part of the Greek culture where Paul was there were gods and statues everywhere. And Paul was walking around just engaging with people within their culture, talking to them about Jesus. So sometimes other people would come back at him and say, listen, you're talking about God that we don't even know. And he would say, no, I'm talking about Jesus. He died and he rose. So as these conversations are continuing, they're saying, Paul, you're saying some weird things. But we're kind of interested in. Let's see what Paul says. People of Athens, I noticed that you are very religious in every way. For as I was walking along, I saw your many shrines. And one of your altars had this inscription on it, to an unknown God. This God, whom you worship without knowing, is the one I'm telling you about. So Paul did something brilliant here. He took what they had in their culture, something they already knew, and he brought it into the conversation. Let's see what else he says. He is the God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands can't serve his needs. And he has no needs. He himself gives life and breath to everything, and he satisfies every need. You see, the people that Paul was talking to at the time, they believed in gods that lived in temples and idols, and they had these things that were, people had to upkeep them, and all this work had to be done. And Paul says, listen, I know you're trying to focus on God. I can see your hearts in that. But guess what? I've got a new way for you to do this. See, the God Paul is talking about, he doesn't just take and he doesn't have these systems. He just really wants to provide and be in a relationship. And yeah, let's just take a look at what he says. From one man, he's talking about Adam here, he created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and fall, and he determined their boundaries. His purpose was for the nations to seek after God and perhaps feel their way towards him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and exist. As some of you own poets have said, we are his offspring. So we have this inert nature in us to seek God. We want to connect with him. Even people who are in other religions, they kind of want, their heart is longing after God for that. And since this is true, we shouldn't think of God as an idol designed by craftsmen from gold or silver or stone. So Paul's explaining to them that the gods they serve of stone and gold and silver, that's not the one true God that he serves. And see also what he didn't do here. He didn't bash these people with a Christian brick saying, this is the truth you must listen to. No, he took them where they were and engaged them because he wanted them to connect with his invite. Because that's the difference. The difference between other religions and Christianity is Jesus. And people are always going to respond differently. Some people who heard Paul, they made fun of him. They said, you're ridiculous, you're crazy. But other people said, hey, I want to know more about this Jesus. See, Paul wasn't worried about people making fun of him or anything like that. He wasn't even worried about winning the argument or having an argument at all. He wanted a conversation. He wanted to invite the people from where they were to a way that Jesus was calling them to be. And we're called to do this too. That's the cool thing. No matter what people believe, the religion they follow or they don't follow, whoever it is, we can love them. And we can come alongside them and say, this is the Jesus that I follow. This is the way that I connect with God. That's what we're called to do. Are all religions true? No. Do we have a truth in Jesus? Definitely. But we don't get to be jerks about it and beat it over the head of other people. Let's come alongside them, love them, and show them this truth. All right, everyone, that's it for this week. See you next time.
You know what blew me away? To hear how gentle and kind we should be to people who believe differently than us. And that the way to point them to Jesus is by showing them love.
Yeah, I think we can have great conversations with those people, but we should also remember we gotta be good listeners too.
Let's check in to see what our friends at the Campfire are doing this week and what kind of questions they have for Natalie and Jimmy. Watch this.
Okay guys, we're here at the fire and we've heard that you guys have like other questions. We're talking about why do people believe different things and what are the differences? So what are the questions that you guys have?
So are all religions saying the same thing?
Do they all believe the same thing? The answer would be no. To make it really, really simple, remember earlier today when you guys were wall climbing, you were trying to get to the very top of the wall, right? So a lot of religions say that God's at the top of the wall. They say you have to do lots of work and try really hard to get all the way up to God. But you know what Christianity says? What it is to follow Jesus means that Jesus is God who came down the wall to get to us. And that's completely revolutionary. Any other questions?
Why doesn't everybody believe in Jesus?
I think not everybody believes in Jesus because Jesus hasn't been explained or lived out well for everybody. Instead, unfortunately, some people have seen a very bad version of Jesus, a Jesus that's judgmental, a Jesus that doesn't make sense, a Jesus that's not loving to a neighbor, a friend, or somebody that you pass on the hall at your school. The real picture of Jesus that we have is that God is love, and Jesus is God made flesh. And so I think if everybody encountered that Jesus through us, if we showed God's love, if we looked more like Jesus, many more people would hear, and more people would definitely understand what God looks like.
What do I tell my friends that believe something different than me?
Yeah, I can take that one. Don't tell them anything. Show them. Show them. We don't need more people telling things and Christians or people who believe in Jesus finger wagging and Bible bashing. Instead, we need people that love God well and love their neighbors, their friends, people who are far from the popular group, like they love themselves. And so I would say that's the first thing. Don't make it your business to just tell friends what to believe. Show them. Show them God's love. Show them God's character. Show them what God looks like by serving them, caring for them, and sort of like wrapping your spiritual arms around them. Once that part is completed, then I would say there is a tell that we can do. And it's like Natalie said before, we can tell them that God actually came down the wall, came down here to meet with us, to care for us, to show us what life should actually look like. So again, answer one, don't tell them anything, show them. Then once you've shown them, explain, and explain Jesus.
Man, those were amazing questions that you guys had. And we are going to talk more next time about more questions that you have.
Hey Dan, what'd you think of that wall climbing?
I loved it. I wish I was on that rock wall right now. But I also love the conversations they're having around that campfire.
Absolutely. I love how Jimmy said, don't tell your friends what to believe, but show them God's love.
Totally. Let's break into our small groups and see what this looks like in our own lives.